Welcome back, everybody. It is Business Monday here at GoLocal Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO of GoLocal. This is Brooke Van Eeghen. She runs Van Eeghen Pharmacy in Cranston, Rhode Island. Independent pharmacy.
Yes.
Run it with your husband.
That's right.
He's a pharmacist.
He is.
You are fighting against Goliath, multiple Goliaths. You've got CVS Goliath, Walgreens Goliath. No more Rite Aid Goliath, at least, right? They're
Minimal.
they've been acquired in some level of mass. And you're fighting against some complexities in your industry that makes it difficult to operate your business.
For sure.
Talk a little bit about it.
Okay, so we opened a little less than a year ago, July of last year, and maybe a little bit of rose-colored glasses there in the beginning, not really understanding the complexity of the reimbursement world as it is right this moment. And we're finding more and more as we go along that it's a really difficult playing field to be in. So especially in terms of not being fairly compensated for the cost of goods.
And then who compensates you? They're called PBM.
PBMs, so
Yeah.
pharmacy benefit managers, are kind of the middlemen between the drug manufacturer itself, the insurance companies, and the pharmacies. And they sort of set pricing and reimbursement for the drugs.
Unilaterally. It's not federally regulated per se.
No oversight.
No oversight.
So a lack of transparency.
And one of those such companies, I'll say it, you don't have to, is CVS Caremark, which is up next to CVS Corporation in Woonsocket. It's got its own giant campus up there as well.
Yes.
And they're one of the leading PBMs in the country. There are others as well, and they all operate in Rhode Island. And talk a little bit about, because it's really a wildly intriguing, but also potentially is part of the reason why healthcare costs are so expensive.
A large part of the reason, yes, especially when you're talking about prescription drug costs. So the PBMs, or pharmacy benefit managers, they're setting prices for the medications. They're also setting our reimbursements. So we can routinely wind up in a situation where a drug that cost us $10, we wind up getting reimbursed less than $10 that we paid for it. So we're already into what we call a negative reimbursement state. And then a few months down the road, the PBM can come back and assign a DIR fee to that.
I love a DIR fee. I want to be able to deploy a DIR fee. What, pray tell, is a DIR fee?
So textbook answer is a direct and indirect remuneration fee. And if you can get a good idea of what that is from a PBM, I'd love to hear the answer, because no one really knows. And no one really knows exactly where the money goes.
You were in the Air Force for a number of years?
I was, yes.
It does sound like a Pentagon.
It does.
It does sound like a Pentagon acronym.
It does.
It's a DIR?
It's a DIR. It's a DIR. Yes. We don't know. All we know is that it drives our reimbursement even further in the hole.
So you know, Mrs. McGillicuddy comes into your pharmacy and orders, 50 capsules per her doctor of Ambient. And or generic Ambient, or one of them, and really you potentially may make no money on this, and then later on you might get whacked with a fee.
Right.
You might have lost money on the initial sale, and then got hit again unilaterally with, and you have no input, no approval, nothing else. No
say in the matter whatsoever. So it routinely happens where we see prescriptions come across, and at the point of sale we can tell we're going to lose $1 to $2, and we decide to go ahead with it because it's not very much, and they have a bunch of other prescriptions. Maybe we're making money overall on the patient, so we decide to absorb the loss. But we don't know at the point of sale what the DIR fee will be and when it will be assessed. So while we're making an educated guess that we're losing $1 to $2, 3 months down the line, a DIR fee might be attached to that. That's anywhere from $5 to $12, so we could be driven into a position that we wouldn't have accepted had we known that at the point of sale.
And is the CVS pharmacy down the street getting the same DIR fee?
So it would be hard for me to answer that with any 100% degree of assurity. Based on my data, I can't say for sure, but my strong suspicion is no, and I would say that based on what other states, the research other states have done, like Ohio, where they have definitely seen that CVS is not charging the same amount to their pharmacies as they are to me or pharmacies like mine.
How many independent pharmacies are there in Rhode Island? Ballpark.
Oh gosh, I don't know that I could answer that anymore. But I know I can tell you 6 have closed in the last year, less than a year. And if you talk to all of those owners, this exact problem that we're talking about played a factor in their decision making to close.
What's the fix? Is it a state legislative fix is what's needed?
I would say there needs to be oversight of the PBMs. They need to be fully transparent with drug costs.
So require the PBMs to disclose to all the pharmacies as well as to the consumers what the actual costs are. It seems
Correct.
fairly reasonable.
Yes.
When we sell digital ads, we say what the cost is.
Yes.
We don't have the opportunity to come back a month later and say, "Oh, Brown Medical School, thank you for buying these ads from
Right.
us." But we've also added on a 30% surcharge for the heck of it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Exactly. Yeah, there's not too many businesses that could thrive in this setting. So while we do okay across the board, what we're looking for is transparency. We want them to be held accountable. We want there to be a clear drug price and bare minimum to know what the DIR fee is going to be at the time of dispensing, so we can make an educated guess about whether or not we want to go ahead with it.
Are other states moving forward with transparency
Yes.
initiatives that are requiring these PBMs to disclose what the pricing is and disclose what the DIRs are?
Yes, there is PBM reform in many states, and I know they're looking at it federally as well, although it did just maybe get shot down a bit this year. But I know it's being reviewed in the Senate Finance Committee, so federally they're looking at it. Many states are looking at it. Rhode Island's looking at it, and they should be. They're losing millions.
Yeah, because the impact also is certainly on Medicaid and Medicare, right?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
there's a huge increased cost to the states.
Right, yes. All of that additional money is not making its way back to the consumer or the Medicaid, Medicare, the state, the taxpayers. It's going directly into the pockets of the PBMs, as best as we can tell.
And do the independent pharmacists have an association, trade group that are working together
Yes.
for such a reform?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the National Community Pharmacy Association, IPC is an independent pharmacy cooperative, Northeast Pharmacy. There's people that have been going to bat for this topic for a long time. I'm a newcomer,
Right.
so I'm
You're not a
I'm
newcomer to being a pharmacist.
not a new
you're a
pharmacist, but
in the military
Exactly.
at 2 different Rhode Island hospitals. But as a small business person, this is your first
right.
inclination.
And so my husband and I are well in depth into this at this point, and we're angry.
Yeah.
And I think if most of the consumers knew, the effect this is having on the cost of drugs and the cost of their health care overall, they'd be angry too. I'm not the type to be quiet.
Well trained in the United States military.
That's right.
To lead. What's the next step? We're at the end of the legislative session. Do you see legislation being introduced in Rhode Island next session for these types of requirements towards reform?
Yes, so I've reached out to my local reps, and I have a feeling that it was already in the works before that, but
Yeah.
we'll be aggressively pursuing some.
Who's your rep?
Robert Jacquard.
Great. Brooke, I want to thank you for coming in, talking
Thanks for
about
having
this.
me.
Thank you for your service, of course. And if you were tuning in about a month and a half ago, your father, Mark Van Eeghen, was sitting right here talking about his wildly successful career as a professional athlete, both with the Oakland Raiders and the New England Patriots. So we're glad to have you in here talking about something very important. This is another aspect of healthcare reform that needs to move forward. I think many people have identified both at the federal and state level. So thank you very much for
Thanks
coming
for
in.
having me.
We're going to be back in about 10 minutes talking with Gary Sass, head of the Hassenfeld Institute at Bryant University, former director of administration for the state of Rhode Island. We're going to be talking about Friday night's passage by House Finance Committee of the state budget, as well as the No Labels Coalition's effort to put forth a new Unity 2020 agenda to help bring the country into a more bipartisan spirit with 8-point initiatives. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you back in about 10 minutes.